Welcome to Solo Journeys podcast, where every journey begins with a single step. I'm your host Sasha, and today we are exploring what happens when business and personal life collide. I'm joined by Lisa, a founder who built a company with her life partner and kept it going after their breakup. She's sharing how they managed it with care, what it takes to stay resilient, and the lessons she learned along the way. So, Lisa, what do you like to do solo?
I really enjoy running all by myself, especially in nature or somewhere near the water. I also really like to sit in a cafe and treat myself to a nice coffee or a chai latte or something like that, all to myself. Peace and quiet and enjoy the surroundings. Those I would say are definitely some of the things I really enjoy by myself.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
So I'm Lisa, 32 years old. I run a company, which I started 10 years ago after an internship. We started out in digital marketing, but then over Corona, things really changed and we went into the whole event management business for digital events. And now, as of 1.5 years ago, we also develop our own event tech. So we're really transforming as a business. On top of that, I love to do triathlon. That's really my passion because I used to be a swimmer and now I get to combine that with cycling and running. And it turns out I really like that kind of combination. Love doing my work and then I get to do some triathlon.
Can you share your story? How did you get started with your own business?
At the time, I was actually interning at a tech company and it was a very big company. And I got to be a marketing intern and I loved that job. But I remember one evening I was sitting with my grandparents at the dinner table and they have their own business as well. And so I asked them what they do to get new clients. They told me that they're doing what they've always done. They have a bus ad and then they're in the phone book. And I said, okay, that sounds interesting. Well, what works? Which of those two activities? And they didn't know. And so I think my eyes were really opened because I finally learned that, a lot of these smaller businesses or medium-sized businesses, they had no idea how to find new clients. They were just doing what they'd always been doing because it seemed to work, but no one was really tracking anything. No one was measuring the outcomes. And so I was like, hey, well, let me help you guys. Let me help you do some online marketing. And so we set up a website. We're trying to get more traction onto the website. And that's how they found more clients. And then in the end, word got around. So more family members and friends of friends started reaching out to me. And then at some point, I just turned that whole side gig into an actual business. And that's how it started. But at the time, it was really just a one-woman show. And I remember, though, hiring my first employee. And that just made me so excited that it wouldn't just be me anymore. Because 2 years of working alone, that's really tough. I found that very challenging.
What would you say is the most challenging about that?
Well, you have to do everything, especially after you've interned at such a large company where there's the legal department and the finance department and everything is so nicely split up. You can really stick to the things that you like doing, in my case, marketing. But suddenly when you have your own business, you also have to do everything. You have to figure out what should be in the contract. You have to figure out your accounting. You have to figure out, and I just didn't very much like all the other things other than digital marketing, but you still have to get it done. And there's no one there to run to. Obviously, once I started going to the Impact Hub, I also was more open to getting help from actual professionals. But I think at first, especially because you're also very cost sensitive, you try to do everything yourself. And it's just so hard.
What was the turning point when you realized that you need to hire somebody to help you?
I could not manage all of the clients anymore by myself.
So it was growing.
Yeah. And there was too much work. I was almost always having to work on the weekends as well. And that was a big indicator for me that it's just too much for one person to handle. At the same time, you also need to have enough savings to actually pay this person a proper salary. And I know in the beginning, we were still struggling with that a little bit. Yeah, eventually you really do want to appreciate what they do, value their time in a way that also is meaningful to them.
Was it enough to hire somebody? The business producing enough of funds?
Yes, I was still paying myself an internship salary at the time because obviously you just want to have the other person come first. And I think when you're bootstrapping everything, this is one of the measures that you're willing to take.
At what point your partner came into game?
He joined as, I think, around the 5th person in the company. And at the time, we were still rather small. We had our digital marketing clients. He was catering to one client, a large client, and then Corona came around. And I remember that this really changed the game for us because suddenly we were growing like crazy. And I was so glad to have him there to not only help manage all the things that we were having to do, but also really make the best of it because we really grew. I mean, we doubled in size and then doubled in size again over Corona, which is really wild to think about now. But yeah, there's no way I think I could have done that without him.
So how long have you been together when he joined?
We were already together before I started the company because we also met at an internship. So we met in a working environment. Then both finished our studies. Yeah, but he was there from day one on when I was starting the company. So it really also felt like he'd kind of always been around. Officially, he joined just a little bit later to join forces, and I think it was for the better.
What are the benefits to work and share business with your life partner?
For one, there is the foundation of trust. I never had to question what he was doing because I always knew he was doing it for best for the company because he was so invested into it, just like myself. Foundation of trust, which is just not to be questioned. Plus, the two of us, we also are very different. And so we have very different strengths. Yeah, in a way, he really completes me in that way. He has his strengths and I have mine. We could really kind of divide and conquer all the different activities that we had to do.
What would you say is the downside of such setup?
Everyone who has been there knows that it's just so hard to separate business from life because your business at times will just consume your life. So that's really all you're talking about, also in your free time together. And I know for couples that don't work together, you also talk a lot about your work because you spend a lot of time at work. But when you're working together and life partners, then it can just be all consuming and you have to set aside time to really stop with the work discussions and just spend time together to really also have that quality time on the life side, not only on the work side.
I think there's one big downside when you split up with your life partner, who is your business partner. Can you share your story?
So I remember right after the breakup, I was so scared to go to work. I just didn't know what would happen. I didn't know, would he show up? Would he not show up? Never come back again to work? I spent all night up because it wouldn't let me sleep. I was so scared. Went to work the next morning and there he was. He did show up. And I remember there was such a sense of relief, even though we were no longer in this personal relationship. I could still count on him to run the business together. Yeah, I'm just so fortunate. I think because we were also in a very precarious situation at work, and there was a lot of change happening and difficult period for the company, we just decided to, in the best way we could, try to work together at work and figure out the whole private situation after work. And I think we did that wonderfully. We were both super mature about the breakup, also really caring towards each other, very mindful. It was all right. We managed. Even though there was so much stress at work, we're still really strong as a team, as business partners. And to be fully honest, there's nobody else I'd want to have a company with.
And it never came to a question if he wants to leave a company, what you should do with the company?
I think several times we were discussing how it would be to now continue working together, but we always came to the conclusion that actually, even though we have very different communication styles and working ways, and again, strengths, we just really appreciate working together, and it works well when you're running a company.
Do you think that it changed any ways how you work together?
100%. I think because we now no longer have the relationship outside of work, we don't take each other for granted. So it's actually very nice to see that, in a way, it's had a positive impact on our working relationship.
So would you say that it had even more positive over negative effect?
Yeah.
That's how you find your partner for business.
I would not recommend that. And I mean, We always had hope that things would work out. You could have both. But in the end, we're still on the same team, just headed for different directions.
How did you handle it on your side? What did you do? How did you feel? Did you find some ways helped you to navigate and get better? And you just say, okay, give it a time and it will be fine.
Honestly, there's no perfect way to go about it, right? You just try to take it step by step, day by day. But yeah, there were good days, and then suddenly you'd cry uncontrollably. And it's just part of the process. What really helped me was to remember other things that were really, really hard that I also got through that I would have never thought had someone told me that. Thinking back to those other hard things, like starting a company or hiring the first employees or managing Corona, all of the things that all of us have done in our past that made us stronger, remembering that earlier versions of ourselves would have been really scared about that, and yet we somehow managed to get through. That gave me so much strength to get through the really hard days.
There was no case that you didn't manage something.
Maybe not perfectly, but that can't be the standard. That we always try our best, and sometimes if things don't work out, we can rest assured knowing we tried.
So what is your biggest takeaway?
Life can just be very hard to plan, and sometimes there are changes in what you always saw as your journey or your plan for your life. It's not a mistake or anything like that. It's really just part of the process, and maybe it's different to how you envisioned it. It's okay. The best we can do is really learn from it going forward.
It's part of the process. This part we always try to skip.
Oh, yeah.
To avoid every time is, couldn't I avoid it? Couldn't I skip it? Couldn't I got rid of it?
I think they're the ones we grow and learn from the very most. It's just hard to see what we're going through. We'll have that insight after the fact.
Yeah. If you don't see that somebody is struggling, doesn't mean this person doesn't struggle.
Oh, yeah.
And many people are so good to hide things.
Actually, this is something that we were also discussing a lot last year after the breakup, was whether or not to share this with the team. And in the end, though, it wasn't that we were hiding it or anything like that. It was more that we really just needed to figure it out for ourselves first. By talking to family and friends and things like this, navigating what was happening, all while trying to overcome the challenges that were at work as it is, without the whole private relationship. Yeah, in the end, we never made any kind of remark about it in any of our team times or meetings that we had. But instead, if someone would talk to us about it and ask us directly, we were always open and honest to share what was going on. While this doesn't have to work for everyone, for us, it was definitely the right way to go about it as we were navigating what was happening and figuring it out. We were once a very special part of each other's lives, but it doesn't mean we don't want each other in our lives anymore, care about each other, but we also wish each other the very best.
The majority of the stories, what I hear, are ending up in a fight. Many people told me how strange it is. We managed it on such a good note. And then I meet you after how many years?
It's been too long.
And then you have a similar story about the breakup and that you're also in a very good term with your ex-partner. That's what I want to share. This appreciation, this respect to each other. No matter what you had in the past, of course, you had reasons to break up, but in the end, it doesn't matter. You're still two human beings. Nobody of you is right or wrong. It just didn't work out.
And I'm sure not everyone who works with their partner, with whom they also have a relationship, after breaking up, is then still able to work with their partner, and can imagine that for some it's not possible. And so I'm just also really, really glad we have what we have and can still keep rocking the business while being on good terms in life.
Talking about business. What's the daily habit or ritual that keeps you grounded as a founder of the agency?
So definitely prayer. That's really important to me because there's so many things that are going on in your head, and getting stressed out about certain things, but when I pray, I can let go, can hand over to a greater power that lets me be so at peace. That is definitely one ritual I do every day, sometimes also several times a day. And also sports. I feel like sitting on my butt in front of a screen all day, ugh, that's one thing. But then being able to move my body, also swim. I love water. So swimming is always my favorite training. It feels so good. And you can just turn off your head and you move. It feels good. So that is also something I try to do daily. Doesn't always work, but I really do try.
Do you have special habits to structure your day?
Yes. For me, it is my calendar. Everything I want to do or want to remember or need to get done, I put into my calendar. Otherwise, I don't think I could function because there's just so much that goes on. And then there's always someone's birthday, and then there's always this and that. And you wanted to wish this person good luck on their exam, and that person, whatever it is. So I always create blockers for things I need to get done, including training. So I don't forget when I need to be where. Also, my team doesn't accidentally book a meeting during a slot in the evening where I would have a training. And so, yeah, it keeps me very organized and structured.
My friend once was a little bit confused about that I sent calendar blocker.
Love those.
She was like, you sent me the calendar blocker for our friends meeting. I was like, it's just how I function. It's about me, it's not about you, dear. Because I'm getting older and I start to forget things, and I found my way.
Right. Yeah, everyone has what works for them, but I'm the exact same. I put in blockers, I put in travel time, I put in out of offices that'll automatically decline things. I mean,
that's on the next level for me. But
yeah,
it helps to structure life. That's
I
it.
agree. 100%.
Personal life, work life, doesn't matter.
Exactly.
I have calendar for that.
I have a calendar and different colors for different things.
For birthdays, I also have them. Lisa, can you share a moment of failure or doubt that ended up teaching you something powerful?
This was probably the hardest race of my life. So last year at the 70.3 Ironman in Greece, I had first a surgery over summer that ended up being much bigger than initially planned and really took a long time to get better. Plus, I then had an accident on my bike doing the Furka pass. Ended up in hospital, and also again had to take several weeks off because I had a cast, and it was just super, super scary. Needless to say, I was not in perfect shape when I headed to this race. So I knew it was going to be a battle. But then on top of that, the weather conditions were just insane. It was really, really windy. On top of that, there were just other things that went completely wrong. I've never experienced all of this in one race, but this was the race. My absolute horror come true. First on the swim, I lost my goggles. Then on the transition, you had to like run through little rocks on the bike. I almost got blown away. Actually, one time I almost hit somebody because the wind came so strong from the side and this person was trying to overtake me. I almost hit them. Like, could have been a nasty, nasty accident right there. Then on my run, I was quite okay till like kilometer 15 out of 21. And then I just could not. My legs were just so dead. I wanted to give up 100 times. I wanted to walk. I kept thinking like I could just walk a little bit and then keep running. But I knew if I started to walk, I was not going to keep running again. And it was so painful because I still had such a long distance to go. And I just could not. I didn't want to anymore. Because I'd had such a bad race, it seemed, I was really on the verge of just walking. I remember I was really, really battling with myself. But in the end, also thanks to this little bike rider who was actually like by my side throughout the whole run, I came third out of all the females, and it has been my greatest victory.
Fuck. I was now expecting something like, sometimes you need to give yourself a rest to leave the battlefield.
Oh, no. No.
I came third.
And it was so close, though. And I didn't realize this till afterwards. Fourth place was only a few seconds behind me. Had I walked, even just for those 3 or 4 seconds, I would have came fourth place. But I kept running through all the pain, all the doubt, and in the end, it was the most beautiful thing. Oh my gosh, you can't imagine. They gave us these beautiful olive tree branches that they put on our heads. So special. I'll never forget it in my entire life. So moral of the story is really sometimes your greatest battles can actually turn out to be something really special. But just hang in there. Don't give up.
If you could go back and give yourself advice at the very beginning of your journey, what would you say? Establishing your own business.
Know your why. That got me through so many hard times, got me through, still paying yourself the intern salary, knowing that the people that you've hired, they're going to be asking for a raise soon, You got to know your why. And it's got to be something that will get you through all those rough times, because in the end, it's a roller coaster and there's no perfect recipe for a successful business.
What was your why? If you want to share.
I love what I do. I enjoy working on not just projects in digital marketing and in the event space, but now this new event tech is just super cool. If I could pick a dream job, this is it. And all the little problems that pop up, or I love what I do. And it's always changing, so it never gets boring.
Exciting.
Yeah, and own business is it's very exciting. Such a roller coaster.
I think for such a thing, you need to be a special type.
But I also think it's more brave to try than to never give it a go and never know what could have been.
If you take a perspective of learning something new about yourself,
this will catapult you forward. We're so scared of making mistakes that sometimes we won't try just out of fear that we might fail. Mm-hmm. That is the silliest thing I've ever heard. Because it wasn't a mistake if you learned something. Mm-hmm. It wasn't a failure if you grew. And in the end, that's what will happen, won't it? What's there to lose?
When I think about myself, it's the foremost fear financial. How are you going to survive?
I also had a side hustle in the beginning. I would work on my business Monday through Friday. And then Saturdays, I was always at IKEA. And I took the job there to just make sure I could at least pay part of my bills, no matter what happened with my business, until I knew I could cover all my costs on my own. But you have to want it. If you do, you'll figure out all the rest.
It's so important that you have right people. How do you hire?
Well, previously, my business partner and I, we would really handpick through different interview rounds. And if we weren't sure, we would actually invite them over for like lunch or something on a personal basis, just to see how they are, see what kind of questions they have. Like in real life, how are they? How do they interact with everyone? Do they just get cutlery for themselves? Do they ask if anybody else needs anything? Just like the whole, how is this person? How are they?
You see a lot, right?
Yeah.
You have some
You see
stories.
so much. And that's the thing, is you see how this person is when they're off their guard. I mean, they're probably on their guard more if you were meeting them as a friend, for sure. But yeah, you just meet another side to this person. And then you can ask yourself, is this someone I want to be working with? Is this someone I see on the team? Yes or no? Now, though, we are super fortunate to have an expert in her field. She's an employee experience manager, and she brings so much experience along, and she hires for us now. That has been such a game changer, because sure, I get asked if I still want to, meet with the candidate, and also if I approve of the candidate. Last week, I had a quick sync with a new intern that we're hiring, but completely approved because she's amazing. And now I get to watch as it no longer needs me to handpick these.
So the right person actually takes a lot of stress from you, so you can focus on the most important things for your business.
Exactly. Which right now is sales, is making sure that we get our event tech out onto the market. Busy times, but it's also, again, super, super exciting to see how we've been able to transform from being only a services business and focused on offering our own product, where we can do our own digital marketing, where we can offer event management around this product.
Intervenes very well.
Oh, yeah. It was a process, right? Yeah. We didn't just land here. After 10 years, it was a really long, really hard hard process.
You know, this is so important to hear because what I see, success doesn't come just overnight.
Overnight success is going to take around 10 years in the making, right?
Yes.
And we don't see those 10 years. We only see the so-called overnight success and think, what? How lucky is this person? No. This person
is a hard worker.
has been working their butts off
Exactly.
for the last 10 years. For sure, it's not been an overnight success. Maybe in some very, 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 very rare cases is it actually an overnight success. Most of the time, 10 years, okay? So just get comfortable thinking it's going to take a long time, like way longer than what we're used to because everything kind of just happens. We order something today, it's delivered the next day, right? That's kind of the world that we live in. And we're so used to everything.
Quick success.
Exactly.
And actually, in the end, when you see that something doesn't work and there's like, this is probably not my path.
Exactly. No.
There are so many difficulties. It takes so long. I'm doing probably something wrong.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, no. There's so much work behind someone's success and overnight kind of way.
Definitely something that I want to share with the world outside. What's one thing nobody knows about Lisa?
Only those very close to me know this. It's that I love learning new dialects. Because as a kid, I was always moving, so I always had to fit in, like learn how all the others around me were speaking. Still today, I love it. I love speaking Swiss German, although I didn't grow up speaking Swiss German. My mom is German, so we would speak Hochdeutsch. It's so much fun, and it sounds so cool, and it'll take me some time. In fact, Swiss German took me a long time. Zürichdeutsch, to be exact, it took me like a year. I feel like I'm not bad. You'd have to ask someone Swiss, though.
What is the feedback on the dialect? How Zürichdeutsch is that?
I just love learning dialects and speaking in dialects.
Interesting. Little big things tell a lot about people. To sum up our conversation, what would you say would be your one top tip to give to fellow founders?
Just do it.
Nike.
Yeah, that has been with me since the very beginning. It's so easy to push certain things off that are important to us because there's always a reason why maybe right now is not the right time, or I don't feel so confident in myself. This, that, whatever. There will always be a plethora of excuses. If you really want something,
go and get it.
That's right. That's right. Whatever happens, know that you've tried.
Thank you.
But no, it just felt so natural and like a conversation with you. Like, at some point, I forgot this was there. In the beginning, I was kind of like, don't cough, or don't do this, or don't do that. Don't drink any water. And then at some point, I completely forgot this.
No, this is a fun part. So it's like a conversation. And it's important that you feel
comfortable.
Yeah.